Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. I'm Scott Coleman, and I am joined once again by Stephen Tolbert. Because, Stephen, we have not even 24 hours later another emergency edition of the podcast today. The Atlanta Braves have signed all-star closer Robert Suarez to a 3-year deal. Your immediate reactions on what has been, in terms of dollars, the biggest move of the offseason for the Braves?
What's up, buddy? We're here again. We mentioned it last night multiple times that they needed to keep going, and boom, next day they kept going. Robert Suarez, one of the biggest closers on the market. There was kind of this big five of Diaz, Devin Williams, Suarez, Iglesias, and Peter Fairbanks. Braves got two of them, so it's a big deal. The Braves needed relief help. We've talked about that all offseason. They've got two of the very best relievers on the market. I mean, that's just the nuts and bolts of it. We're going to get into the money and the roles, but just 30,000 feet looking down, there was pretty much 4 or 5 really good relievers on the market that were going to be premium in terms of being paid. And the Braves got two of them. So, there's some nuance that we're going to get into, but you can't really argue with that. I mean, that's massive for the 2026 team.
Big time addition to this bullpen. And let's go over the contract first. So 3 years and $45 million for Suarez, which is right in line with most of the projections from trade rumors and Fangraphs and ESPN. That $45 million will be split up $13 million in 2026 and then $16 million in 2027 and 2028. So Braves are going $3 million lighter for this upcoming season, which is interesting. And we're going to talk about what might be coming and why the Braves might have wanted to save a few million this upcoming year. And Suarez will turn 35 years old in March. So not a young man. He has had a fascinating path. He pitched professionally in Japan, actually, from 2018 to 2021, and then signed a pretty healthy contract with the San Diego Padres and has been a fantastic closer for the last couple of years out in San Diego. One of the very best. I believe he led baseball in saves the last 2 seasons. So Suarez, this guy is battle tested. The Braves, as you said a moment ago, now have 2 just tried and true veterans in the 8th and 9th innings. And I guess we'll go right into who Suarez is. I mean, he's an interesting pitcher because, Stephen, he only really throws a fastball and a changeup and then a sinker, which is kind of like a mix of the two, but he is not a typical power reliever in the way you see with big-time wipeout sliders.
Yeah, he is he is pure gas. I think he was 99th percentile, maybe 98th percentile in velocity. He averages 99 miles an hour on his fastball. I mean, the dude lives in the hundreds. The Braves got, one of the hardest throwers in baseball. And like you said, he's not, the off-speed stuff is not where he lives. The changeup he does throw, but he relies on this thing's coming at 100. Do what you can with it. And so, every once in a while he'll get hit decently hard, but when you throw that hard, man, it's just tough to do anything with it. It's got good movement. Like you said, he does have a sinker to add a little bit of a wrinkle. But yeah, he's not the fastball slider guy that we're used to seeing, the Kimbrels or, even Iglesias. I know Iglesias has the changeup as well. So he is a fascinating guy. He is a unique, but he's made it work. I mean, he's been one of the best relievers in baseball for 5 years, and everybody knows what's coming, and they still can't hit it. So, and there's really been no signs of slowing down. Like last year, he averaged right at 99 miles an hour for his fastball. Like it's still, even at 35, because he did have such a unique path to the majors, he doesn't quite have the same mileage on his arm that a lot of 35-year-olds would, at least, in terms of major league innings thrown. So there's probably still quite a bit of gas in the tank. Obviously, the Braves feel like there's quite a bit of gas in the tank. They just gave him a 3-year contract and not a cheap amount of money either. So, but yeah, this is one of the best pitchers, one of the best relievers in baseball. I don't know. I'm curious to know what you think. I did not think the Braves would go get 2 of these guys. I thought I knew they would get one, and I just always assumed it was Iglesias. Once they signed Iglesias, I was not expecting another one of the kind of the big 5 to come off the board to the Braves. But Yeah, Alex has always spent money on bullpen, always spent money on bullpen, always spent money on bullpen. We can debate that at a later date, but he went out and got basically the next best reliever on the market after Diaz and Devin Williams signed. And now the Braves have maybe the best 1-2 punch in the 8th and 9th inning in baseball.
It's funny, Steven, at the onset of the offseason, if you told me what closer were the Braves going to sign, I might have actually said Robert Suarez,
Yeah.
because we have heard for 2 off seasons now, both publicly and behind the scenes, that the Braves have really liked Suarez for a long time. They tried to go and trade for him last winter, kind of at the very end of the offseason. There was Suarez and Dylan Cease and Michael King were maybe available. And of course, all 3 ended up sticking around. But because the Braves have liked Suarez for so long, it does not shock me that they have signed him to this 3-year deal. I think where I'm legitimately surprised is that they have invested now $29 million next season to have both Iglesias and Suarez in the 8th and 9th innings. And interestingly enough, right after the signing, multiple national and local reporters, Mark Bowman, David O'Brien, Ken Rosenthal, all reported that the belief is that Raisel Iglesias is going to remain the closer in the 9th innings and that Robert Suarez is going to pitch the 8th innings. Now, of course, that can change. Circumstances happen. It is hardly a problem because 2 guys you feel comfortable with in the 9th inning is a good thing to have. But, was that a surprise to you when that came down?
Not really. Obviously Suarez has to be okay with it. I'm sure they talked about it, but at his age, this is probably his last big contract. So I'm guessing he doesn't really, if you're like 27 and you're still trying to get 3 or 4 really nice contracts, you probably want to stay the closer because teams just pay more for closers. When you're 35 and this is probably your last big deal, you're like, I don't care. As long as you're going to pay me, I'll pitch wherever you want. It's also Iglesias has always been beloved by the Braves because of his willingness to take the ball any inning, anytime, anywhere. He doesn't care. He doesn't have an ego. The fact that Suarez is just okay with this, also a pretty good indication that he's just like, yeah, give me the ball. I don't care. I'll pitch whenever. And like you said, it's going to be performance based. Iglesias lost the closer job briefly last year when he was struggling so bad. If Suarez is just lights out in the 8th inning and Iglesias is having trouble in the 9th, I guarantee you they won't hesitate to switch it around. It's a good problem to have. You just have so much experience that it can go either way. So no, I wasn't surprised. I will tell you. So the other day we got a note that after Edwin Diaz had signed with the Dodgers, there was a report that the Braves were heavily involved in Edwin Diaz. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
And you never know what to make of that. You never know if those are real, if that's just somebody guessing. I think this is proof the Braves were heavily in on Edwin Diaz as well. They were very clearly highly aggressive in the high leverage reliever market. And I would actually love to know how close the Braves got. When I saw that report, I was like, well, they probably wouldn't even be really close. I bet it was pretty close. I bet the Braves were, I think they knew they wanted to get Iglesias back. And then they probably said, we want to get one of either Diaz or Suarez. And so I think it's confirmation the Braves were in that market and they were obviously in the Suarez market. They just signed him. So yeah, Alex clearly indicated back a bullpen was going to be a key for him this offseason. And he went out and got 2 of the best guys.
Yeah. And obviously Iglesias was only a 1-year deal, but Suarez is 3. Yeah. So who knows what the next 12 months are going to hold, but you could always make Suarez your closer in 2027 if we play baseball in 2027 and 2028. Right. And if Iglesias is awesome again, you can bring him back and do like the Charlie Morton 1 year at a time thing because he's a veteran. And that's, you said it off the top and I'll emphasize it. If there is one area on the roster that Alex Anthopoulos, for better or worse, is never afraid to spend on, it's bullpens. His entire time, he has had at least one expensive arm out there in the 9th inning, if not 2 or 3 or 4. It's not an area he has shied away from when building out his teams.
Yeah. And you mentioned the structure of the contract where they're paying $13 million this year and $16 million next year. One thing to keep in mind, of course, is that Aaron Bummer and Joe Jimenez both make $9 million this year, but both come off the books next year. So I did think at one point this offseason, after the Iglesias signing, I thought if they sign another one, I would not be surprised at all if they backload the deal because it gets them through the Bummer and Jimenez. We could also have a whole Joe Jimenez conversation attached to this. I think this is a pretty clear indication. We can do that at another show, but obviously they're not confident. They're not confident in that knee, and they still owe him $9 million. So it wasn't surprising to me that they backloaded this Suarez deal. It makes sense with what they've got currently in the bullpen.
And it's not hard to see why the Braves like Suarez.
Yeah.
And the last 2 seasons with the Padres as their closer, 135 appearances, a 2.87 ERA, a 3.17 FIP, about a 26% strikeout rate, and a 6% walk rate. So strikes out a lot of guys, maybe not elite in that regard, but Suarez strikes out a lot and doesn't issue free passes. And if there is one thing, not just us, but managers in baseball, front office execs, fans, you name it, if you're a reliever and you walk people, there is no faster way to fall out of favor and get into trouble. And that's something really throughout his entire time with the Padres, Suarez has done a really good job of, is not issuing free passes to first base.
Yeah, and the Braves have always valued strikeout to walk ratio. They love the 4-to-1, 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I remember when they traded for Joe Jimenez, he was number 3 or 4 in the majors the year before in strikeout to walk ratio. It's just a metric they care about a lot, and it's very predictive. It's a really strong. If you're somebody who likes to get into the numbers, that's a number you should really get into more for pitchers is strikeout to walk ratio. It's very predictive of success. Teams love it. The Braves adore it. So it's not a surprise they went after Suarez, struck out almost 10 per 9. Like you just said, doesn't walk, barely walks anybody. So yeah, that it was even more clear on top of the fact that we've heard Suarez's name for a couple of years linked to the Braves. He just has a metric that the Braves are really, really high on.
Well, and credit to you, Stephen. When we did our Mike Yastrzemski emergency podcast 24 hours ago, you said Suarez's name, I think, multiple times on the show as kind of our big takeaway from that show. And please go back and listen to the Yastrzemski emergency show if you didn't already, was as long as this is not like the final move of the offseason or the final move of significance, we were cool with it because we understood what the Braves were going for. But that had to be just another piece of a bigger puzzle. Yeah. And I don't want to say that adding a 35-year-old closer is a guarantee and you can plan out the Braves World Series parade tomorrow. But Suarez is an impact reliever. I know we'll do our quick bit that year over year, relievers, they're volatile. They have good years. They have bad years. They can change. They can fall off. They can come out of nowhere to be really good. But this guy is about as tried and true as it gets the last couple of years with San Diego. And I fully get why the Braves did this. And I like the signing for sure.
Yeah, listen, I didn't say Suarez's name last night, just ran we have heard this smoke for a while. And it's funny that people always say, well, if you hear the name in a rumor mill, that means it's not happening because the Braves never leak stuff. It's just not true. Stuff gets leaked out. You can only control so much of what gets leaked out because other teams are involved, other agents are involved, the entire other side is involved. The agent can leak anything anytime he wants. Not Alex has control over what agents do. So Brave stuff leaks out all the time. We need to give Robert Murray credit because Robert Murray broke the Yastrzemski signing. I think Passan had this signing, and Mark Feinstein had the rumor about the Braves and Suarez 2 days ago. So stuff gets out. It's not just every time the Braves do something, no one has ever even heard of it or thought about it or talked about it. It's not actually true. They are tight-lipped, but not so crazy. And the last point I'll make is, so the Braves have signed 34-year-old Robert Suarez. They've signed 35-year-old Mike Yastrzemski, and they've signed 36-year-old Raisel Iglesias. I think for 45 plus 23 plus 16, that's 70-something million bucks they've given to a 34, 35, and 36-year-old. We need to say out loud into a microphone, there is risk here. The Braves are banking on some conservative aging curves where, especially with Suarez on a 3-year deal, and like you just said, the volatility of relievers, there's risk. This is not a risk-free deal. Obviously Iglesias is a 1-year deal. Yastrzemski is a very low AV. With this deal, it could hurt. If something goes wrong with Suarez in the next 6 months, it could hurt. So there's risk here. I don't want to just ignore the downside completely because we like the signing. And the Braves have gone the Braves are quietly becoming a much older team with these three guys and the money they're paying him. So there's not like there's no risk involved, but overall, I do like this signing.
So we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our partners on the podcast. But when we come back, we're going to talk about what this bullpen looks like with Suarez and Iglesias in the mix. We're also going to now talk a little bit more as well about what else the Braves could do this offseason after a very busy last couple of weeks. But first, quick word from our partners. All right, Stephen, let's talk about this bullpen now. It was an area we knew the Braves needed to address, and they have addressed it with 2 big dollar signings so far. So currently, we have, if the reports are correct, you have Raisel Iglesias locked in for the 9th inning. You have Robert Suarez for the 8th inning, more times than not. He could probably throw a 7th if he was facing some tough righties, but Iglesias and Suarez is 2. Dylan Lee, assuming healthy, awesome from the left side, probably your best lefty reliever at the moment. You have Aaron Bummer under contract for $9 million. Probably not a 0% chance the Braves could move on from Bummer in the coming weeks, but if Bummer is healthy, and he did have the shoulder scare at the end of the season, you would imagine that Bummer will be out there, hopefully a healthier bounce-back season. The Braves gave $2.25 million to Yoel Payamps a couple of weeks ago. Payamps was once really good with the Brewers, was terrible last season where the Brewers DFA'd him and the Braves picked him up. Clearly, the Braves are banking on him being able to bounce back. I think Payamps will be in that group, although for $2 million, if he just looks god-awful in the spring or even a couple of weeks into the season, you could always move on. And then I think those 5, if healthy and on the roster, are probably on the team. The massive question now is Joe Jimenez and his surgically repaired knee, his twice surgically repaired knee, which the Braves have been pretty wishy-washy on if they feel like they're going to have Jimenez back. And then there's a handful of others who are going to likely round out the back end of the bullpen. Do you think the Braves are done spending in the bullpen? Do you think they're going to go and sign another legitimate reliever here? Do you think they're going to pick up a half dozen veterans on cheap deals and hope that 1 or 2 of them stick, knowing you have now some stability at the back end? Where are you at with this bullpen right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously Iglesias and Suarez are in. I think obvious Dylan Lee, Aaron Bummer in as long as they're on the team. Like you said, Bummer is no guarantee. I would not be surprised at all if they tried to move off that $10 million bucks. The wild cards are Ronaldo Lopez and Grant Holmes, because if you feel like either one of those is going to be a reliever for you this year, and I really think one of them should be, specifically Ronaldo. Like I think if you put Iglesias, Suarez, and Ronaldo Lopez as your 8th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guys, because remember when Lopez pitches out of the bullpen, he throws like 102 miles an hour. So you have Lopez, Suarez, and Iglesias finishing games for you. And you have the pitching depth, you have the starting depth, at least right now, and especially if you go add a starter, because of the emergence of Hurston Waldrop. Now, some of that is tied to the health of Grant Holmes. Some of it is tied to the health of Ronaldo Lopez. So those are the wild cards, right? Then on top of that, you have to remember guys like Joey Wentz and Bryce Elder have 0 minor league options. So those guys cannot go to the minors after spring training. They're either in the rotation, they're in the bullpen, they're on the IL, or they're DFA'd. Those are the options. So I'm guessing Joey Wentz is going to be in the bullpen. That's my guess. Now he's got to pitch well. He could be, if he comes into spring training and pitches like crap, he could be DFA'd. Same with Elder. But just remember, the guys that don't have options matter in this conversation as well. And then, like you said, Joe Jimenez. Like, imagine if you had Ronaldo Lopez and Joe Jimenez, and you had all 4 of these guys at the end. Daysbel Hernandez is still technically out there as a, he's got to figure out where the hell the ball's going. He rarely knows. But there's a lot of names. I would be stunned if they kept spending at this point. That's a lot. They have a lot of money tied to a ton of money. Probably too much money tied to the bullpen, if we're being blatantly honest. But we're not going to complain about spending right now because fans were mad as hell yesterday because they weren't spending. Now they're spending. Do I love the allocation of bullpen relative to the other spots? Not really, but who cares at this point? We'll debate that at another time. They have a lot of names. They have a lot of money. They have potentially the best bullpen in baseball. I think they should put Ronaldo as the 7th inning guy, like Grant Holmes and Hurston Waldrop, and whoever they sign as a starter go to the rotation. But there's a lot of ways they could do it, and multiple of them could work because there is quite a bit of talent in this group at this point.
Yeah. You also have like Dylan Dodd from the
Yeah.
left side. Dodd was fine.
Also out of options.
Hayden Harris is someone who has fans, and Harris was called up for like one day, and did he even he got into like one game, I think, before the Braves sent him down.
Yeah.
Hayden Harris has fans, great numbers in the minors. You mentioned Daysbel Hernandez. I'm personally not a big Daysbel guy. I don't think
he doesn't know where it's going. Yeah, he doesn't know where it's going.
The idea of Daysbel is awesome.
He does 100. Yeah.
Daysbel's bull case is that he turns into Robert Suarez. He just throws the shit out of the baseball every time and says, here's 100 miles an hour, try to hit it and see what happens.
Yep.
But when you're not throwing strikes like Robert Suarez does, that's going to be a problem. And then, there's also kind of in the wings waiting, like AJ Smith-Shawver. He had Tommy John surgery, but maybe at some point in the summer, you could bring AJ Smith-Shawver back in a bullpen role to kind of build him back up. You have J.R. Ritchie in the minor leagues, and who knows? I mean, if Hurston Waldrop is kind of squeezed out of the rotation, depending on what the Braves do from here on out, maybe they have Waldrop in the bullpen for a month or two to keep his arm fresh. And then at some point you send him to Gwinnett and you then build him up and then he becomes a starter. Maybe you don't want Waldrop to throw 200 innings in his first full major league season. I guess what we're trying to say here is there's some real depth here, especially knowing that you feel about as good as you can feel in December about your 8th and 9th innings. That's kind of my lean too. Maybe they sign one more veteran to like a 1 year, $6 or $7 or $8 million deal. I would hope that means they also have money for a shortstop and a starter. But I kind of think with Iglesias and Suarez, they're pretty much done with this bullpen.
Yeah. And they've also got like, what's his name? Burkhalter, Blake Burkhalter, the guy that was going to be potentially taken off in the Rule 5 draft. A lot of people see him as a reliever. I actually thought he might get picked in the Rule 5 and somebody would put him in a bullpen role. That didn't happen. He's still on the team. Lara, who came up last year briefly. They got a lot of names and a lot of money tied into the bullpen. So, I think they have the talent. I love the fact that they have added premium velocity to the bullpen, especially the back end. It's something I really wanted them to add. I felt like they were a bit behind. I think the Braves threw the fewest amount of 100-mile-per-hour pitches in baseball last year. So I did want them to add, and obviously with Suarez, they've done that and more. But man, I could sit here all day and dream on Iglesias, Suarez, Ronaldo Lopez, like 7th, 8th, and 9th.
With Dylan Lee on the left side too. Yeah. I mean, and if Aaron Bummer can get back to form, I mean, this could be a sick bullpen.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways you can go. Obviously, Grant Holmes too, if they want to limit his innings because of the injury. I don't know if we said his name already, but there's a lot of ways they can go. I would say whatever money you have left, let's go find a shortstop and let's go find a starter. Let's maybe hold off on spending any more on the bullpen. But the talent of this group, I mean, it's I think legitimately could be the best bullpen in baseball. Now it could be average. This is how bullpens work. It's not like a lineup or a rotation where you can really feel good about it until you see it, until everybody gets there healthy. But on talent, they have a chance to be unbelievably good.
Yeah, should be really fun to watch this summer. We will see what the coming weeks and months hold. All right, Stephen, we're going to take one more break, but when we come back, we are going to talk about what is left for Alex Anthopoulos to do this offseason. There's still some pretty big items to check off. Let's be greedy. Let's get this team to be as competitive as it can realistically be. First, quick word from our partners. All right, Stephen. So we're about a month into the offseason. The bullpen has been heavily addressed. The shortstop position has maybe been addressed with Mauricio Dubon. And the outfield and DH spot has been pretty well addressed with Mike Yastrzemski. Again, Stephen and I talked about that signing for about 35 minutes on Wednesday. Go and check out that episode if you want to listen to it. But for my money, the two big things, starting rotation and shortstop.
Yep.
Where are you at with those two spots now that the Braves have solidified kind of the other big pressing needs on the roster?
I put shortstop 1. The Braves do have a lot of depth in rotation, and especially now that they've added at the back of the bullpen, because I thought there was a world where maybe Holmes and Lopez would be in the bullpen. But when you add Suarez, it's not as big a need, right? It's all connected. It's all in a, it's none of this is in a vacuum. It's all connected. It's all in context. So like just a solid mid rotation starter would make me feel amazing about the rotation. Like the rotation is good. Like you read off the names, the rotation is good and it's got upside. It's got enough upside that you can dream on, and it's got enough depth that you're okay. But one more name would be fantastic. But damn, do I want a shortstop? I want a real shortstop. Listen, Mauricio Dubon is a high quality major league player. He's one of the best. He's in the top 1% of baseball players in the world, but he's much better as a bench piece. He just is. He's much better as a bench piece. He's a utility guy, and your roster is so much better if he is your utility guy and somebody else is your starting shortstop. Now, people are going to say, what name? I don't know. I don't listen. Kim is out there. Everybody knows about Kim. There's trade targets. The Corey Seager stuff. There's actually a lot of smoke coming out about Corey Seager. Not necessarily, somewhat connected to the Braves, but just in general, the Rangers are apparently much more okay with trading him than I maybe thought they would be. The Rangers might be in a kind of a pivotal, they might be at a crossroads where they're going a different direction. My God, could you imagine? I'm not even going to say it. If they traded for Corey Seager, this would be the greatest offseason of all time, but it's probably not going to happen. But so I don't know the name. I don't know who it's going to be, but I would love a real shortstop.
I would too. And, the Seager one is fascinating because every day it feels a little bit more like the Rangers might be willing to actually trade him.
Yeah.
And the 6 years and $189 million left on his contract.
Yeah.
But then you read about it a little bit more, like between the lines, and it might be one of those situations where, sure, the Rangers will trade Corey Seager to the Braves, but they want Drake Baldwin, or they want Spencer Schwellenbach, or pick, and probably more than that too, which is maybe crazy to say, but Corey Seager is not going to be cheap, guys. When he's on the field, this guy is a top 8 hitter in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But it's fun to dream. And the fact that the Braves have now made some real signings this offseason, I think the temperature level of the fan base it better damn well cool down. And I get it.
Yeah.
Last offseason was miserable. Yeah. You guys are frustrated. We're frustrated. Try doing 3 to 4 podcasts a week where the team made one signing the entire winter, which was, a good player in Jerkson Profar, but not a superstar by any means. If they signed Juan Soto, maybe. But yeah, it's this, I think, is a really nice step in the right direction. And if they can add a shortstop, which is easier said than done, and add something to the starting rotation, I feel like we're going to be in a good place come opening day.
Where are you at with the pitcher? Or are you the starting pitcher? What level are you do you still want a Ranger Suarez? Because the starting pitching market, the closer market has moved insanely quickly. There's still some decent starters out there. I think Suarez is probably Suarez and Valdez, Framber are probably the 2 best guys still out there. What level are you at with the starter?
So what was really interesting to me the other day is there was a report, I think from Mark Feinsand of MLB.com, that Framber Valdez's market has not really developed.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if I am the Braves and I am willing to give up the 26th overall pick and really invest in one of these big 4 starting pitchers who are left, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Michael King, and Zach Gallen.
Yeah.
I think when you factor everything in, I think Framber Valdez is in a tier of his own compared to the other 3. If I'm going to go and commit 5 or 6 years to one of these starters, which I think is what most of them are going to get, I'm probably more on the Framber Valdez train because I think he has the fewest questions about him. And I would also be probably more comfortable giving up the qualifying offer pick to add a legitimate number 1, number 2 to your rotation. He's a stud. He has been as consistent as it gets in Houston. Whereas Ranger Suarez, he doesn't throw hard. He's never thrown 160 innings in a season. Michael King has had one great year, but other than that, he's either been in the bullpen or hasn't been healthy. And then Zach Gallen, I'm just not willing to give up a pick and big money for Gallen. I just don't think he's great. If he ends up being awesome and he's an all-star and a Cy Young winner next year, then I'll eat crow on that one. My guess, Steven, is that they go and sign a starting pitcher, but in that middle tier,
Yeah.
your Merrill Kelly types,
Yeah.
Chris Bassett. If the Braves feel like Brad Keller can be made a starter, who was a reliever and a really good one the last couple of years, but he was a starter before, that kind of tier to me is where my guess would be if I had to put money on it. But maybe Alex Anthopoulos has a lot of money to spend, and they're like, you know what? Enough screwing around. We're going to go get one of these big name free agents, and draft pick be damned. We're just going to go all out for the next couple of years. That's probably not a non-zero chance.
Yeah. It'd be hilarious if they signed Chris Bassett. They'd start handing out AARP cards for this free agent class. I agree. The draft pick, also all four of those guys would cost a draft pick because all of them are qualified free agents. The pick complicates things. It's kind of one of those things where if you're going to give up the pick, you would almost rather be on a long-term deal. Like you need some value. You need the other side of the equation to have some heft, have some value to it to make it, like giving up the pick for a 1-year deal doesn't make any sense. So it is interesting. I do think, we've talked about Brad Keller with the Cubs, who could be converted, who could also be a reliever starter hybrid. I kind of love having those on the roster because of the versatility. I could be talked into a lot. I would just much rather have a shortstop, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. There might just not be a one available. I don't know. I don't know what Kim's going to get. I have not heard a single peep about Kim's market other than Scott Boras saying a lot of teams have called, which who the hell knows what that means? Yeah. It might mean no teams have called for all we know. But I think it's going to take forever. So I would love a shortstop. I would love this roster so much more if DeBon was the super utility, like first guy off the bench. Maybe they are. I guess there's a world where they don't add a starter. Maybe they are super confident in Holmes and Lopez. I do not recommend that. I would really hope they would add a starter. We'll see. But I would prefer. I really want I want a starting caliber shortstop, even if it's not Corey Seager. Go find somebody in the trade market. Go, maybe the Rockies will talk to you about Tovar or something. Like, try to go find a short. I would love to get this black hole at shortstop filled at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been dark days since the All-Star game when Orlando Arcia was an All-Star. And ever since, it has been just a never-ending decline at the position. And, the $1 million question is we don't know how much money the Braves have left to spend.
Yeah.
And if it's 15 to 20 million, and that's just a total guess, then maybe Alex sits there and goes, you know what? We can add one more player. Do we want it to be Ha-Seong Kim or do we want it to be Merrill Kelly? Because you're probably not getting one of the elite starting pitchers for $15 to $20 million. Or maybe they have $30 to $40 million left to spend. And it's okay, we can get one of each. We can get a shortstop if the right one presents itself, and we can go get a starting pitcher and try to figure out the budget that way of who makes the most sense in terms of highest impact per dollar spent. I said it with Brad the other day. I am not trying to give away this extra draft pick the Braves won with Drake Baldwin winning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
But if they go out and sign a big-time free agent, I am not losing sleep over the 26th pick in the draft. No. Go look. I looked this up historically, or I looked this up the other day, that historically the number 26 player in the draft over the last 12 years, I think the best player who was taken was Taylor Ward, who was a pretty decent outfielder, was with the Angels, just got traded to Baltimore. But Taylor Ward, guys, this is not, sure, maybe you find the next Aaron Judge with the 26th pick, or you find a guy who never even makes the major leagues. I'm not looking to just give this pick away. I'm not giving it away for a 1-year Zach Gallen deal.
Yeah.
But I'm also, it is a free pick the Braves kind of have. It is a joker card in their hand, and they can figure out what they want to do.
And they also have the trade market. They don't have to sign a free agent to add a starter. We've heard of plenty of starters who could potentially be traded. Listen, if the Rangers are serious about cutting money, like Nathan Eovaldi is still out there, there's names in the market where you don't have to give up the pick at all. You'd have to give up prospects probably. So it's all an equation. And you mentioned payroll, so I do want to mention the Braves after the Yastrzemski signing, after the Suarez signing, The Braves already have more cash payroll committed to the 2026 team than they did at any point in 2025. And we're at what, like December 10th or whatever today, December 11th. So, they're at like 230 million right now in terms of cash payroll, depending on how many like league minimum guys they have on the roster to fill out the roster. So they're getting up there. Now that's not luxury payroll. That's not AAVs. So that's a little more complicated. We'll probably dedicate a show to that at some point. Just because the Braves are kind of creeping up on the luxury tax is the reason that we're probably going to need to talk about this at some point. But yeah, cash payroll, they're already above where they were last year. So like you said, the thing we don't know, the thing we can't know is how much they have to spend. And, getting on here and talking about and trying to judge these deals would be so much easier if we knew, like, Mike Yastrzemski is 8% of the payroll. Like, if we had that number, it would be so much easier. So we just don't. We don't know how much they're going to spend. So I have no idea how much this Robert Suarez contract, how much of the war chest that just took up. If I did, we would have we'd be able to talk about it a little easier. So we just have to guess. But right now they've spent more than they did at any point last year, which that's already a hell of an improvement off last offseason, where we had just sat around and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. Got one damn move the whole offseason. Already substantially better than that.
Yep. And I would say this, and we close the Mike Yastrzemski emergency show with this, and we'll close out this show as well. Keep going, Braves.
Keep going.
Like, the first month of the offseason has been great. 2 lights out relievers, a really good hitting platoon outfielder, and a Gold Glove utility man.
Keep going.
I like all those moves. In a bucket, I like those moves.
Yeah.
But keep going.
Keep going.
Ideally, go get a starting shortstop and go get some kind of starting pitcher. And if it's not Framber Valdez or Ranger Suarez, I'm not going to come on here and yell about it, because I get it. Like, the Braves do not, unfortunately, have just completely unlimited money, and giving $25 million to starting pitchers for 7 years is kind of terrifying. But some kind of a starting pitcher and some kind of a shortstop. And this would be like an A+ offseason for me.
Yeah, I would feel great. Any level, anybody that I can clearly say that is a starting shortstop. I'm not going to go through the names, but anybody I could say that is a starting shortstop, I'd feel great about. And yeah, starting just some sort of mid-rotation durable starter. There's dozens of them out there, trade market, free agent market, any of those guys. And yeah, this is already a fantastic offseason.
So, an exciting day for the Atlanta Braves. Robert Suarez, your new 8th inning man, maybe 9th inning man for the next couple of seasons, on a contract that was right in line with projections, with what a lot of people thought it was going to be. An exciting time for the Braves. And overall, this has been a much more enjoyable offseason. Not hard to do after the misery we sat through last winter, but a really enjoyable first month of the offseason, at least for me. I think you feel the same, Stephen. And now let's finish this thing off. Like, finish the job. Go all the way. No half measures. Go out, add a shortstop, add a starting pitcher, maybe add one more reliever if you have the funds to do it. And let's go, man. Like, let's get back to the playoffs. The Braves have won 2 effing playoff games since they won the World Series.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get back to winning where we want them to be.
This is your core. Like, your core is not getting younger. Like, Olsen is in his 30, almost in his 30s. Acuna's 27 or 28. Riley's 27 or 28. Like, you built this core to win now. Go win now. Like there's not a single prospect in the Braves system that is untradeable, that you should be like afraid to move to try to go, like the next 3 or 4 years, you should be balls to the wall to try to go win another World Series. This is what you signed, all these like team friendly contracts of this core, so you could do this, so you could just go for it for like a 5-year stretch. We'll go for it. We got a 5-year stretch where everybody on the team, all the important players, are still productive. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Yes, indeed. So that is going to do it for this emergency edition of the Hammer Territory podcast. As always, a big thank you to everybody for tuning in on the audio podcast side, as well as on YouTube. And we'll do our plea. If you're new to the show, please hit the subscribe button, follow the show, like the show, whatever it is you need to do. So whenever we do more shows in the weeks to come, they'll be in your feeds. And for our longtime listeners and viewers, thank you as always for stopping by. He is Stephen Tolbert. You can follow Stephen on X/Twitter at B_outliers. I'm Scott Coleman. You can follow me on Twitter/X at Scott Coleman55. We'll be back with plenty more content for the Atlanta Braves throughout the offseason. And until then, we will see everybody next time.